What's up, guys? My name is Rob, and this is Rob on the Run podcast, a running podcast for all healthy lifestyles. And today, this is episode 3. I can't believe we're already in episode 3. That's crazy. We have Hillary here. Hillary, how you doing?
Excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm glad you're here too, Hillary. Hillary, I follow her on Instagram. She's just became a coach not so long ago, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And she's an awesome runner as well. So, Hillary, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started running, all that good stuff.
Sure. So I started running actually as a child. Mm-hmm. My dad, and to this day, my dad is a cross country and track coach at a high school here. He was a cross country and track coach at my high school a long time ago. And I grew up watching him train for marathons. Mm-hmm. Cheering him on at his marathons, everything with that. And then when I was 7, he thought it might be fun for us to run a road race together. So he signed me up for local 5K. I had never really trained or run any more than like playground, like what kids run around.
Running around from the friend or whatnot.
Yeah. But I was 7, so it was not. It did not take the physical toll that it does these days. Yeah. And so I did that first one, and I just kept going, and stuck with 5Ks for quite a while. So. For the rest of elementary school, it was all just 5K road races, whatever was going on. I grew up in Arizona, nice. There was a lot of events and stuff out there. And then got to junior high. I did cross country and track. It was a little bit shorter distances for those. I think junior high cross country was like 1.5 miles, and then I ran the 800. In track. Got to high school, went back to 5Ks because that was our distance for cross country there. And then in college, I started with half marathons. I ran my first half marathon at the age of 20.
Oh wow!
I focused on that for about 10 years. Ran my first full marathon at the age of 30. And I've done 4 more since then, and that's where I'm at now.
And it's funny that you say that at the age of 7, like you don't feel that physical, drain that now you feel at this point. I know I do for sure. When I go out for a long run, it feels like I ran like forever, even though maybe it was 10 miles or something like that. But I remember when I was around 10, 11, my brother used to play baseball. And one thing my brother used to hate to do is run laps. So the coach would make him run laps around the whole field. And I would run with him, and then I run with his friends, everybody that got there, everyone. So the way they would do it is like, as soon as you got to the field, you started running your 2 or 3 laps. And so, of course, there's always a strangler. Some other show up a little bit later. So I would run with them, and it was nothing. But now I probably can't do that. So it is very, very funny that you mentioned that, and it brought that memory, because I can't run like a 5K and then run another 5K probably the same way. It's
Plus,
so different.
5Ks are the worst.
Yeah. For sure. But yeah, it's crazy. 7 years old, man. And you started, that's, and does your dad still do races, or he just?
No. So he doesn't really run very much anymore. He's 100% coach. He's still my coach though, this day. So, for my last marathon, he did my plan for me. I'll send him my workouts. I'll call him when I'm driving home. He just got back from Corpus Christi the other day for his school's, I think it was regional meets.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's track season. I can't remember the order that it goes in Texas as far as city, region, area, district, all that stuff. Like I didn't go to high school in Texas, so I don't know how all that works, but it's one of the important ones they just got back from. So it takes a ton of time. He also drives the bus. He's like, wow. Yeah, they looped that in too. So like he has to be on campus at like 4 a.m, and then he'll get back. He'll get home like really late. So he is not much of a runner anymore.
Yeah.
But he's still very much ingrained in the sport. He still goes to as many of my races as he can.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I bet you that he definitely keeps you accountable, right? Because
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
got to be different when you have a coach that you don't have that extra relationship with, because
Yeah.
first of all, he's your dad, and then
Yeah.
he's your coach, like I can only imagine, like I have a running coach. I've never met this person. It's
Really?
online. Yeah. And I feel bad when I don't do a workout. Like, for example, I'm not gonna lie, I'm putting myself on blast here. Last 2 nights ago, I was supposed to do a speed workout, and I had the most horrible sleep. Like, I woke up maybe every other hour, and when I woke up at 4:45 when I go and do my run, um, I just I just was so drained, so I decided not to do it.
Yeah.
And during the day, I'm thinking, man, I'm probably letting my coach down. I can only imagine
2 seconds.
yourself. Yeah.
Can you give me 2 seconds? Sorry, my son
Yeah.
is knocking on the door. Give me
Oh,
just
no.
two
Go ahead.
seconds.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry. Sorry. I
No
have two
worries.
kids. So
No worries. No
my son is
worries.
supposed to be asleep at this point, but he is not.
Oh my God. And how old is he again?
He's 8.
Oh yeah. He probably heard you talking. He's like, who's she talking to?
Yeah. Yep.
No. No, but yeah, like I was saying, it must be having that extra relationship, knowing that he's your dad and he's looking at everything you do. If you miss one day for whatever reason, I'm guessing he's on you pretty hard.
He's actually pretty relaxed on it. Mostly just because I have a job and kids and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm also not a very talented runner. Like just straight up like fact,
Yeah.
I'm not a very talented runner. I've never been a very talented runner. Everything that I've ever done has just been for my own like personal records and going after that.
Yeah.
So there was never it's always been pretty low stakes. Like
Yeah.
it's been I was definitely held accountable when I was on his team in high school. It was not okay to miss practice unless there was like a legit reason. But these days he's pretty relaxed on that, and that's kind of what I try to emanate as well with my athletes, and not just people who I coach, but also just random runners if they get on themselves for missing a workout and things like that, because this isn't most of our jobs. If it is your job, then don't miss your stuff. But most of it, it's like, life is complicated. There's a lot going on for most people any given time. And so, you are going to miss workouts like that. And so he's pretty laid back on that. I think I've never been in a situation where I just blow off a lot of things in a row and it just, becomes like, you are not prepared to run this race. You cannot do this, anything like that. So I'm sure he would be a lot more on me if it was things like that. But on times that I either have to shorten something, I don't hit my paces for some of my speed work, I have a really tough time, or I have to like skip it altogether, he's super understanding and supportive and everything about that.
That's good.
But that's also kind of how like my personality is. And obviously, like as my dad, he knows how I'm motivated. I am not a tough love person. Like I do not thrive under any of that at all. It just makes me want to do nothing. So he also, that's another one of the benefits though of having it being my dad, is that he knows me very, very well. He's known me longer than almost anyone. And so he does not coach me in the same way that he coaches people who aren't his kids, and then also I'm twice the age of his athletes also. So there's also that component.
No, and of course he knows you very well. Who knows you better
Yeah.
than your parents, you know? So he knows that the tough love won't work, will just make you want to do less, like you said. So
Yeah.
that's totally understandable. But coming up with the coach part, like what inspired you to start coaching?
Back to my dad. Honestly, I've been watching him coach
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. I don't remember when he started coaching, but it was long before I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a kid, at least in junior high, probably elementary school, we would go to his track meets and watch him coach his athletes in
Yeah.
addition to you know, when he was running his marathons, and we would go watch him for those.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's always that component. I also, you know, I like I like the sport of running because even though it is an individual sport, like it takes so much more than just like one person. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
there's so much more to influence success than just me deciding to do something.
Yeah.
And having a good coach is such a huge component of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in one of our local run clubs here in San Antonio. It's called San Antonio Road Runners, or we call it SAR.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have some really good coaches there too, and there's a few of them who I will just ask, you know, random questions
Mm-hmm.
and things like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Is this a reasonable goal? Is this is it bad that I could not hold this pace past
Yeah.
my first 2 miles? Things like that, just anything like that. And I really like having that resource and having people who care just as much about running as I do. And so I really wanted to get in and do something like that as well. I also
Yeah.
really just like running at talking about running, you know, watching other people run, all that stuff. Actually, I have a fantasy league right now for marathons. So
Oh wow.
we we just finished round 3. So round 3 was London.
Okay.
We do a draft and everything.
Oh wow.
Or yeah, no, it's like a whole thing.
It's kind of like fantasy football, but for runners.
It's
That's awesome.
exactly like that. Yeah.
That's
So it's
awesome.
7 rounds. So it's all the majors plus the Olympics.
Okay.
And so we draft teams based on the elite field. And then so I mean, you know, like I just really, it's super ingrained in my identity and my life and everything. So it's
Yeah.
also just an additional, it's a way to help people while also, you know, talking about and helping people go
Yeah.
after something that I'm just super passionate about.
Yeah. And I can tell, man. I've never heard of fantasy running, but it
Yeah.
sounds actually it sounds really cool. I think it also, in a way, for me, as when you're saying it, it helps people also learn, you know, all the athletes. 'Cause you'd be surprised how many runners don't know all the elite athletes. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's
Yeah.
crazy, you know. And by doing this, you kind of are, you know, showing them and showing them
Yeah.
all these amazing runners that we have in the running world, right, per se, you know. But that's awesome. I really do you post this on your feed or something? I would
No,
love to see
I
that.
haven't posted anything yet. This was so it was kind of like a trial thing. I wasn't sure if it was gonna work out. So far it actually has been working pretty well. There's 10 of
Nice.
us in the league. One of them is my dad.
Of
So
course, of
there's
course.
and then some people that I know in person, and then a few people that I've never actually met that I just met on Instagram.
Okay.
And ended up, you know, I just posted something about is, you know, would you be interested in doing a fantasy league for this stuff? And this was it was between the Olympic trials in Tokyo, because in the
Okay.
Olympic trials, that was kind of where the thought came up, because I had a run that morning and I just kept checking my phone to see where everybody was at.
Yeah.
And following that, and I was like, this would be like, and people kept calling it their Super Bowl, and I'm like, this is my Super Bowl. Like, this is really,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know who played the Super Bowl this year. Like, honestly, I have no idea.
Oh my God, that's funny.
I it might have been, I think it might have been Kansas City.
Of course, that's for sure. That's for
Yeah.
sure. I don't remember
But
who played other than Kansas City. I know
I
Kansas City played, but
feel
I don't
like it
remember
might have
who.
been San Francisco.
You know what? Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes. And the
Yeah.
only reason why I remember is my cousin, he lives in LA and he's a big San Francisco fan. He actually went to Vegas to go to he didn't go
Cool.
to the game. He didn't
Oh,
go to the
okay.
game, but he wanted to go to Vegas because they always have the Super Bowl experience
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
sure.
And he asked me to help him find him a place to sleep because he didn't book anything. So on the day of the Super Bowl, he was trying to find a place to stay. And the
Jeez.
cheapest hotel I think he found was like Stratosphere or something like that, which is all the way on the other side of the strip for like $500.
Well, he's lucky he
So
didn't end up having to just sleep in like a rental car or something
well,
at
he
that
had his
point.
car because he lives
Oh,
in
okay.
LA, so it's only like
Oh,
a
yeah.
3 hour drive.
Okay.
I actually told him I was like, maybe it's cheaper for you just to pay like the $18 parking fee, like for one of the
Yeah.
hotels, and just sleep in the back seat of your car. And he's like, oh, I can't do that. I was like, well, then pay $500. I guess you're a big baller over there. $500, man. That hurts. I mean, I'd rather use $500 for 2 big marathon races
Oh,
than
yeah.
paying for a hotel. But that's just me. But yeah, I'm the same way. I talk about running 24/7. So
Yeah.
I love watching all the major marathons. It makes it sometimes I don't want to watch it because it gives me FOMO. Like
Yeah.
I
Oh,
want
yeah.
to be
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I want to be there, and I'm the same way as you. I'm not a fast runner. I'm a decent runner. I can hold a good pace, but I cannot qualify for Boston. It's too damn fast.
Yeah.
And for what I heard, it's going to get even faster. So
Oh,
that's
I'm
not
sure.
getting it. It's not
Yeah.
getting any better. But I still want to do my 6 majors. I'll do the charity, which is still a very great reason to
Yeah.
do it. But I'm a decent runner, and I just love running. I picked it up 5 years ago, and it's been downhill from there on. It's whatever I can find my hands on and to run, to do any challenge that I can do, I'll do it. Like right now, I'm doing the 50 state challenge, which is 50 marathons, 50 half marathons in 50 states.
So funny because
So,
I'm actually doing the same thing, but I'm doing the endurance one. So
okay.
it's either half or full marathons.
Oh, okay.
So it's like just a little bit more lenient. But yeah, I'm doing that as well.
I started with 50 halves, but then this was before I started running full marathons. So now I'm thinking of doing the same thing as you, kind of like
Yeah.
doing both because I didn't think I was gonna like the marathon, and so I did Chicago first, and I did absolutely horrible. So
Oh,
that
really?
really, yeah, it really motivated me to do better. So I've been trying to break the 4:30 time, which
That is
is
so
it's
funny because that's where I'm at currently. That's
yeah,
my exact that was my goal for my last 2 marathons.
yeah.
I ended up 3 minutes and 3 seconds too slow. So still
Oh
working
my
on that
God.
goal, but I'm same boat.
It's so
Like
frustrating,
yeah.
man, because the last time I tried, it was New York,
Oh, okay.
2023, I think.
Okay.
And wait, was it 23? I think it was 22. Actually, I think it was 22. And it was that marathon that it was extremely hot for
Well,
November.
it's also, I mean, it's a tough course for
Yeah,
if you're trying to PR, it's also a tough course. I'm running New York later this year.
nice.
But I'm also running Berlin. And so
Me
my
too.
plan is, oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
Did you
Awesome.
get in on lottery?
I got it through lottery 3 years ago, and then I've been deferring it ever since. So
Oh, okay, because the
I don't know
COVID
how to
stuff.
do it. Yeah,
Okay.
no, but this I was
That's
supposed to do it
cool.
last year,
Yeah.
and I just did not do my due diligence to get
Yeah.
everything planned. So I decided, well, if I can defer it one more time, I will do it. And they let me. So I was like, okay, then
That's
I
awesome.
guess,
All right.
yeah,
So both of us, we are both going to end up breaking 4:30
we are.
at
Yes,
Berlin. So
yes.
that's my goal race. I'm doing New York as a fun experience without a time
Mm-hmm.
goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm doing Houston as whatever. Hopefully I have a new goal after Berlin. Hopefully it's not I'm not having to try again for that for that one. But I don't know what my goal will be for Houston yet. But
Yeah,
yeah, New York, it's a tough course. So
it
it's
is. It
just
is.
my plan for that one is just have fun, enjoy
But it
it.
all depends on the weather. If you get
And
awesome
that's
weather,
also a
which you
huge thing.
should, which you should,
Yeah.
because Houston and no, I mean, New York in November should be cold.
Should
I
be.
I've done it twice. I did it in
Yeah.
2021 and it was cold. It was like 30 degrees.
Yeah.
Then the second time it was like 75 degrees with like 80% humidity.
Yeah.
So it was brutal. I think that was the first time they had 50,000 runners again after COVID.
Oh, cool.
Because when I did it in 2021, it was 30,000. So
Okay.
they kind of did it smaller. So and they said that 5,000 people did not even finish that year.
Oh,
So
really?
that's a big number,
That is a big
people.
number. That's
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. So it was hard. I ended up finishing it like in 5 hours because I did a lot of walking and running.
Yeah.
It was just horrible. But
Yeah.
it's funny that you mentioned Houston because I'm actually doing Houston as well. I live in Houston, so
Look
Houston
at
is
that.
a
Oh, yeah, you do live
Houston
in
is
Houston. Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
There's no
That
way that
makes
I
sense.
cannot do that one. So I'm doing it through the charity through my
Oh, cool.
through Team Catapult.
Okay, cool.
It's a really good organization and I love doing charity work. So it's
That's awesome.
definitely
I'm
doing
running
through that.
Berlin for charity.
Oh, awesome. And which one
Yeah.
is it that you're doing?
I'm doing Team for Kids. So
Awesome.
I did, and that's actually how part of how I got to New York as well.
Okay.
So over the summer last year, I signed up for the virtual
Mm-hmm.
New York City, but the regular one was filled up. So I did the Team for Kids virtual challenge.
Oh, wow.
So you raise $1,000, so a lot less than some of the other
Oh, yeah.
commitments.
Yeah.
And then you also run you run a marathon wherever it is that you live during
Mm-hmm.
the same weekend as the New York City Marathon. And so that's how I got in for this one. And
Oh,
then
nice.
this is pretty much going to be my one and only chance to run Berlin for the foreseeable future, just with the
Same
age my
here.
kids are at. My best friend's getting married in Portugal 1 week before
Oh,
that.
wow.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be in Europe in the end of September. Like I have to run Berlin this year. And so I signed up for the charity before the lottery even came out.
Nice.
And luckily I did because I did not get in on the lottery. I'm doing charity for that. I did charity for Boston as well.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And then I will almost definitely do charity for the other three as well whenever I get to them,
Same here.
because
Same here.
I don't like the uncertainty of a lottery. Like if I want to do something this year or next year, whenever, like I want it to be a sure thing that I am going to be running that race.
Yeah. I hear you.
So,
I hate that. As a matter of fact, funny thing you say that because when I ran the 2021 New York City Marathon, I tried lottery, I got rejected, and I felt so bad that same day when I got the rejection letter, I signed up for Team for Kids. Like
really? Okay. So you did Team for Kids too. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I said I just couldn't find why I was not gonna run it. Like
Yeah.
I was dreaming about it before the lottery came up. They announced the lottery picks, I guess. And when I got that letter, I was so pissed that immediately I did it. And I didn't even ask my fiance. Like I just said, I'm going to do it and I'll ask for forgiveness later, which, she's been a trooper because I've signed up for so many races where she didn't even know. And I told her, hey, guess what? We're going here. So she's a trooper.
That's the story of my life. That is our like family vacations have turned into where is mom running a race, and what else can we do while we're out there.
That's the same thing with me. Like my fiance will plan trips, and the first thing I do is go online and check, is there a race there?
Yeah.
I start looking at routes on Strava where I can run, and she's like, just take some vacation off of your running. I was like, I can't. I love to run and I got to do it, So It's funny that you say that because it's the same way. But one thing I was going to tell you about Berlin, since you're going to be over there, remember that a week, like right after we run Berlin, Oktoberfest starts. So
I know.
that's what
So that's on the calendar. So it actually starts before Berlin.
yes, it does. Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, I don't know why they named it Oktoberfest because it's in September. Like
Yeah.
I don't know German. That's also not something that I am well informed on.
Well, it's
But
2 weeks. So it's 2 weeks
okay,
of Oktoberfest. So it does. The first week is the last week of September, and then it kind of goes to October, the first week of October.
okay,
But yeah, I'm planning the way I'm planning my trip is I'm probably gonna leave like Thursday night,
okay.
get there Friday morning, pick up my bib, probably do a shakeout run on Saturday, and then shut it down completely, run, and then go straight to Munich to go
That's awesome.
and drink some beers with the Germans over there, and
That's awesome.
maybe getting drunk and learn some German. You never know, you know.
Yeah, we're actually doing it opposite. So we're starting with the wedding in Portugal. And then and this is also tied into all of this. This is also our honeymoon. So
Oh wow, that's awesome.
yeah, so it's a little delayed. We got married last October.
Okay.
And that's actually where the picture that you have that I sent of me
Oh yeah.
in the wedding outfit, that was my pre-race, that was my pre-wedding race, because you can't
Oh
get
wow.
married, you can't have a destination wedding and not run a race in that
Of
destination.
course, of
Like
course.
that's it's one of the rules that's written in the rule book.
I like that. I like that. And if Alma's listening to this, that's my fiance, by the way. If you're listening to this, Alma, then you already know I got to find a race before we get married. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and so we got married last October, so it'll be almost our 1 year
Oh, wow.
anniversary by the time we're actually taking our honeymoon. But we delayed it because we have two little kids.
Yeah.
And we and there was no way I was going to miss my best friend's wedding. Like that
Of
was
course.
going to happen no matter what. Even though she chose Portugal, she's never even been to Portugal. Like this is like she's Canadian. She's very
Wow.
much speaks only English.
Mm-hmm.
Not not any tie to Portugal, but it's super pretty. She wanted like a vineyard wedding,
Okay.
and it's really pretty. They fell in love with the place, and they're like, "All right, we're getting married in Portugal." So I booked
Wow.
a flight to Portugal. I booked a one-way flight to Portugal, and I was like, "All right, we'll figure the rest out there." So we're doing Portugal, and then we're going to Switzerland after that
Nice.
for 2 days, and we actually. Our flight, there was an option to have a 22-hour layover in Spain.
Oh,
So we're doing
wow.
that because I was like, that's like we're not even paying for extra transportation. That's technically a layover. So
Yeah.
we're going to Spain, then we're going to Switzerland, then we're going to Munich. Each place we're at for 2 days, and
Yeah.
then we get to Berlin, and then fly home the morning after the race.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
It's like you're
yeah,
doing a world tour, like
pretty
in a
much.
short span, man. That's awesome. That gives me some ideas to think about because it's going to be my first time going to Europe as well. So I want to take at least a week and a half, just
Yeah.
because after the race I want to go explore, and I also want to go to Spain because that's where my grandfather's from. He's from
Oh,
Barcelona.
how
So I
cool! That's
definitely want
awesome.
to kind of go see and go places over there. But yeah, it's kind of I'm kind of nervous, and you probably will find it funny because the biggest part for me is the flight. I have ADHD, and for me to sit down in a plane, I can't even sit for 3 hours in a plane.
Really?
Like when I go from here to Vegas, it's I lose it. Like I have to try to fall asleep or do something, keep my mind occupied, because if not, it's bad. And my fiance has gone to Germany, and she says it's about an 8 hour flight, more or less. If you make connections, of course.
You're lucky. You're lucky because y'all have that big airport in Houston.
Yeah.
Like we in San Antonio, you can fly to like 4 places,
Oh, really?
and one of them's Houston. Yeah, no, it's you can't get a direct flight anywhere.
But 8 hours to me is still too much. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to figure out something, because if not, I'm probably gonna drive my fiance crazy on that. But it's gonna be fun, and hopefully, hey, maybe we'll meet each other somewhere there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
I mean, we have the
you know,
same goal, so
yeah, yeah.
we should probably run
What
it at the same time.
exactly? That's what I was gonna say. Maybe we should run it. So definitely we will keep in touch on that. But actually going back to your coaching, one question
Sure.
that I had, because it's given that you're a mother, you got a job, your running is a hobby, how do you balance everything between your training, your personal training, training others or helping others, and balancing your own work? Like how does that work out in a 24-hour time period?
Not always perfectly. I mean, right now it's 9:41. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm doing this podcast after my kids are in bed. That's part of it. I do I'll run whenever I can. And that includes that, and that's year round. So
Yeah.
I will run if it is most convenient for me to run at lunchtime and it's
Yeah.
July, like I'll do it.
Oh,
That's when I will
wow.
get my run in. And like today I mean, it was nice out today.
Yeah.
But I did my workout at lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was when I had time for today. A lot of that, I'll work on people's training plans and things like that, just between other things. It comes in small chunks.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not, I very rarely sit down and am able to focus on one thing for a while. It's a
Yeah.
lot of just little things. With social media, basically I'll just come up with an idea and just kind of do it like right then. Like I don't really plan for any of my social media stuff
Yeah.
most of the time. That's just kind of wherever I happen to be,
Yeah.
or whenever I come up with an idea. With my kids, I try to spend time with them as much as I can in the evenings. Tuesdays are group runs for my run club. So
Okay.
that's the evening that I'm typically away.
Mm-hmm.
Other nights, like I'll either try to make my run short, run in the neighborhood, wait till they go to sleep, and just
Yeah.
wear something light up, or sometimes I'll bring my son to the park. There's a half-mile loop at one of our local parks, and that's where I do a lot of my speed work.
Okay.
And he'll play on the playground while I run.
Oh, that's awesome.
So a lot of things like that, or even the track. I tried it recently with both kids. My daughter's 3, so it did
Okay.
not work. My brother and I went to the track over by his house, and we're
Yeah.
like, oh, the kids can play on the field while we run, and it did not work out very well with my daughter. But it does work if I bring my son. Like he's at an age where he can play
understands.
hockey by
Yeah. Yeah.
himself and all that stuff. So just getting creative, and that's another kind of reason why I'm not super tied to a schedule.
Yeah.
One thing that I do with my runners is I don't put anything as far as weekdays. Like I don't say Monday run is this, Tuesday run. I just number runs, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, fit these 4 runs in when they fit in your schedule.
Yeah.
And that's
That's
pretty
awesome.
much how mine works also. But it's how my own schedule is. And I'm not coaching professional athletes. And so I'm pretty relaxed about that for myself. So why wouldn't I be with
No,
with
but
other
it's
people?
it's awesome that you do that, because sometimes when you do that approach with somebody, like you said, like you and I, that we're not at an elite level, we're probably, somewhere in the middle,
Yeah.
and you're coaching people that just like yourself, that might have kids, might have a full-time job, and you number it that way, they can fit it in their schedule instead of having to feel accountable to do it. Oh, Monday I got to do this, and
Yeah.
Tuesday I got to do that. So that's
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome. That's really cool that you do it that way. And out of all the coaches that I've talked to, I think you're the first one that does that, and that's really really cool, because I think that as somebody that is being coached,
Hmm.
sometimes that gives me a perspective of fixing, maybe if I can't do this run today, I can do it, the next day, or in the afternoon, or in the morning, or whatnot, so definitely that's really cool that you do that.
Yeah, and I mean, it might not work for everybody.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely people who, the structure of it is really good. And, at a higher level,
Mm-hmm.
You're running more than 4 days a week. So there's
Yeah.
not as much flexibility with that.
Yeah.
But I run 4 days a week. My plans for coaching are I max out at 5. So I'll write
Okay.
them for up to 5.
Yeah.
I won't do them for any more than that, just because that's the level that I feel comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And typically people who run, who are on a run streak, we have kind of a different mentality.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of run streaks. I would never
Yeah.
do one. And sometimes, I mean, they're really motivating for some people, but it's just
Yeah.
a completely different perspective. So I won't make plans that include 6 or 7 days of running. And
Yeah.
then and that's just, I think that also is kind of a good point where, like, I'm not a good coach for everybody. And I don't think any one coach is. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's something that's super important for people to remember as well. Like
Yeah.
it's not just the first person, or like somebody's super fast, and so you're like, they can make me fast. Like, I'm gonna work with
Mm-hmm.
this person. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's something that you don't really think about a lot also.
No, you're absolutely right. I've had two coaches, and my first coach, great coach. But I like for me personally, I felt like most of the runs and stuff that he was doing was more for someone that was much faster,
Yeah.
someone that was trying to. I'm not going to say PR because I have my own goals to PR, but
Oh yeah.
maybe that somebody
Yeah.
was trying to do a much faster race,
Yeah.
and you plan accordingly for that, you know. And with this new coach that I have, it's much more fitting to what the way I run, you know, and it's
Yeah.
great. It's taught me a lot of cool things like cross training.
Yeah.
I didn't do cross training before. I thought running is running and that's it you had to do. And with this new coach, he actually has 2 days where I cross train, which no running is required that day, you know. So it definitely, you're right. Every coach will fit for a specific person. There's no right coach for everybody, because
Yeah.
if not, then we probably wouldn't have that many coaches out there, you know?
It'd just
You
be
know?
one training plan and everyone would follow it.
Yeah. And it's speaking about one training plan, you being a coach and you have a father that's a coach, how do you feel about, you know, that runner or that person that wants for the first time wants to do a half marathon or a 10K, and they go online on Pinterest and they find these plans that are pre-made? How do you feel about that? Is that something that you are okay with, or do you feel that, you know, it's not tailored for one specific person?
Is like, if the goal is I want to get to the finish line, I
Yeah.
think that generic stuff will get you to the finish line. Like,
Yeah.
if it's a bucket list thing, like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people who are, they have no intention of being lifelong runners. Sometimes it happens anyways, but there are
Yeah.
people who, it's like a one and done thing. They want to train for and run a marathon, say they did it.
Yeah.
And I mean, if the goal is the finish line, like, a lot of that stuff is just fine. Like, it'll get you there. You'll have the endurance. It's
Yeah.
I think that working with a coach and like training plans, I think it's a lot more important when you are trying to PR. You've been a runner for a while. You want to improve on where you're at. And PR can be, it looks different for everybody,
Yeah.
not just speed, but like distance,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been so focused recently on marathon, on the marathon distance. And I took a little bit of a break. I'm racing a 10K this weekend. And so
Awesome.
that's kind of a different thing. And so I had to change the way that I trained for that in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like, I know I can run 6.2 miles. So it wasn't just how can I get myself to the finish line of a 10K. It was how can I change the training from just focused on running for a long time and keeping my legs going to being, running faster for less than an hour. It's just a different kind of thing. And so I think if you're really trying to fine tune things and improve, then that's when having the tailored approach, really talking to somebody about your goals. Is this a realistic goal? Are you setting yourself up for success? I think that's another important thing with having a coach is, if my goal was to qualify for Boston, which it's not, that I'm more than an hour away from that right now.
Same.
But having a coach that says, you are at least 5 years off from this. Like, let's set some more shorter term goals. Like, it's okay
Yeah.
for that to be the goal, but and so I mean, it's definitely better long term to have a coach.
Yeah.
But I mean, the stuff that's online will get you to a finish line. And I mean, there's some decent just pre-made plans from reputable coaches and stuff, and that
Yeah.
stuff is fine. Like, but I think the next level of it is really working towards specific goals and
Yeah.
specific improvements and things like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I like the answer because when I started running, I wanted to do the Las Vegas half. That was my first half. And
Oh, how cool.
at first I was trying to figure out how do I run? Like the most I had run before that race was a 10K.
Yeah.
And that's double the distance. So
Yeah.
how am I going to get from 6 miles to 13? You know, that's
Yeah.
totally different beast. So I started going online and I started looking at stuff. And a lot of my friends would tell me, don't do that. Ask somebody to help you, a runner to help you, because those are generic, like you said, generic. They're not tailored for you. What if you can't run all those days? Like you got to figure out something that works for you. So I always ask that to especially coaches, just because I always like to hear their input and what they think, you know. But actually, I was going to ask you, Hillary, because you mentioned something very, very important, creativity. And I noticed that you have a pretty nice following. You do. And when kind of like, at what point did you realize that, you know, you had a good following, and where did your focus go to the making the videos? When did that click for you that, you know, it was working for you or whatnot?
Honestly, even like at this point,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of I have major imposter syndrome. Like, all the time I'm thinking, why are why are people actually like interested in watching any of this, you know, watching me
Yeah.
run 9-minute miles and post close-ups of my face, like just really stupid, just simple stuff. Like it never clicked that it's like, oh, this is a legit thing. Like, it still kind of blows my mind and everything.
Yeah.
I started the account just because, to be completely honest, I was posting stuff on my personal page,
Yeah.
and I just thought that I was probably annoying like a lot of the people that I know personally, because they're not runners. And it was just
Yeah.
every day it's like, oh, hey, look, I went running. And so I was like, you know what? I should make a running only page.
Yeah.
And at first I just figured like, oh, I'll just post my runs, and it'll be like my logbook
Yeah.
of what I'm doing. And I actually don't post like I'll put my runs on like my story,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe if I have a good speed workout, I'll make a
Mm-hmm.
post on it. But like these days I don't really post all that much about my just regular workouts.
Yeah.
Um and it's kind of shifted over the last year to more either tips,
Mm-hmm.
and tips from like my perspective. So like,
Of
you know,
course.
you missed a goal, so here are my tips because I have been in that that situation. Or you know, things that I find funny and that
Yeah.
somehow other people also find funny.
But they're
And I'm
relatable. I
all,
think they're
yeah,
relatable, and that's what I
yeah,
like, because I was watching most of your videos,
yeah,
and they're very relatable. Like you mentioned, you miss your time. I've had those so many times, you know. So when I see that, I think, man, that's me. Like I
yeah,
can identify myself. But it's really awesome. I think that even though you're saying, oh, who wants to see a 9-minute pacer? There's a
yeah.
lot of people out there. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think there's more slow runners than fast
Oh, yeah.
runners.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I think that, you know, you're hitting that niche of a lot of people that feel the same, you know, and when they see something like that, they relate to it, and that's why they like it, and you start growing because
Yeah,
it's normal, you know, and I think
yeah,
I think I love it because there's a lot of people that, you know, you look at a fast runner, you look at Kipchoge and his pictures, or a local elite runner from San Antonio, and some people are like, man, why can I not do that? You know?
Yeah.
And then you see like yourself putting videos of, you know, your regular runs or your, you know, tips to help out people with maybe overcoming a bad run or something like that. That's awesome, because that's probably what we need. You know, we need to identify ourselves that, you know, it's okay. It's okay that you had a bad run. So kudos to you. And I love the videos. I like the creativity. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with you becoming, you know, having these opportunities with your brands that you like to, you know, they obviously see that you relate. And I've noticed that you also have several partnerships or an ambassador. And for those that don't understand or don't understand how that happens, how does that usually work for you? How did you become an ambassador for some of the brands that you do?
It's about half and half. So some of them, like I'll have brands reach out,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes they're not a good fit, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'll let them know, like, no, this isn't. Specifically headphones and watches, like those are ones that I always say no to because I don't wear headphones or watches.
Yeah.
And so that's not that's not my thing. And I try to be super authentic. Like I'm not gonna be talking about a brand that I don't genuinely like or use.
Yeah.
So if I start talking about a watch ever, like that's when I've jumped the shark. That's when y'all need to stop stop
Uh,
listening to me.
Unfollow
Um,
her.
so a lot of them, like I'll just get messages. Either I have a professional email address that's like on my Instagram.
Okay.
So I'll either get emails from brands or just like direct messages in
Okay.
Instagram. Like, hey, we want to send you something and tell us what you like. If you like it, post something.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, then tell us and don't don't post it. Just tell us.
Don't put us on
So that's
blast,
where
please.
yeah. So that's where a lot of the stuff comes from is just
Yeah.
companies reaching out. And that's another thing that has like blown my mind that
Yeah.
I never 2 years ago before I had this page or anything, I would have
Yeah.
never thought that people want to send me protein shakes
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like I never would have thought that was a thing.
Yeah.
And then there's some that are brands that I like and I know they have ambassadorship, and
Hmm.
so I'll apply for them. So
Yeah.
so my main one is Brooks,
Yeah.
and so that's one that I applied for.
Yeah.
And
I've applied for Brooks 3 years in a row, and unfortunately it's never and I started liking Brooks even more lately. Their shoes have changed a lot to
yeah,
where they fit my feet better. And now I used to be a big New Balance person. And
okay,
all my shoes, from training, long runs to race shoes, there were always New Balances. And
yeah,
now, the other day, it was funny that you mentioned Brooks, because I put all my shoes on a line, and 80% are now Brooks. And it's crazy
okay,
because it's like the GTS, the Glycerins
yeah,
GTS, the regular Glycerins I did not like at all.
yeah.
But these GTS, I don't know what they did. They're so different, but they are my go-to shoes for any type of run. You know,
That's
so
what GTS stands for. So
yeah, yeah,
that's
it's
what
crazy.
do you have the 20 or the 21?
The 21, I think it's 21.
Okay. Yeah. So that is currently my go-to as well.
Yeah.
It's really great. They did a whole campaign. They sent us them and these little zero gravity
Oh
looking
yeah,
things. They're
yeah.
really they were super cool.
I
And they
get
live up
super
to it.
jealous
They
with
live
you
up to
guys
the hype.
ambassadors, man. I get super jealous because I have a couple friends here in Houston that are also
Yeah.
ambassadors,
Oh
and they show me their little videos, and I'm like, oh my God, I hate
yeah.
you right now so bad, man.
Yeah.
But hopefully, hey man, hopefully Brooks will give me a chance. I did sign up for their like trial testing kind of. They have a group
Oh,
to do the
cool. Yeah.
testing.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that maybe I get to test some of their new products. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But talking about like brands reaching out to you, I felt like a super influencer pro one time. I'm not gonna lie. I actually got reached out by Puma. And
Oh,
I did
nice.
not. I honestly, when I saw the message, because it was through Instagram, and
Yeah.
you get so much crap on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
I on my running Instagram, I get stuff for dogs. Like they're like
Oh,
telling me,
wow.
"Oh, we think you're a perfect fit. We like your feet." And I'm like, I don't have anything about dogs. Like, what the hell? And so
Yeah.
Puma sent me a message. They wanted me to try out a shoe, and I'm like, at that time, I think I had like maybe 500 followers. I'm not even gonna
Oh,
lie.
wow. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
and I was like, why me? Like, I have
Yeah.
very little followers,
Yeah.
and probably like
Yeah.
half of them are probably like, bots or something like that, And so
Yeah.
I finally answered and I said, this is not spam because I'm not going to give you my social. I'm not going to give you my
Yeah.
card number. So if you're going to
Yeah.
do that, just don't bother. And
Yeah.
someone was laughing and they were like, no, 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 this is legitimate. Just give us your address.
That's
We'll send you a
cool.
pair of shoes. And then a month passed and I never got anything. I was like, man, I got spammed. And then all of a sudden I got the shoes and I
Oh, okay.
was
I was gonna say you never got the shoes.
no, I did, and I still have them.
Okay.
I don't even want to like they're already worn out, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like my one time of glory that I've had so far. I am an ambassador for some stuff, like stuff that
Yeah.
I use. I use hats, so Alter Ego has been
Yeah.
a big one that I love. Also, the one that I love is Rabbit. I've always loved their
Okay.
clothes, and they finally said, you know what, this guy applies so many times, let's just give it to him, I guess. But
Cool.
it's cool. It's cool that that you can relate to the stuff
Yeah.
because you're right. I do see a lot of people, runners that will get whatever they throw at them, but sometimes you
Yeah.
got to be very relatable to you got
Yeah.
to like it. You got to,
Yeah.
because if you're going to promote it, you're not going to promote something that you just don't like. So
Yeah.
definitely I love that. And again, I think it shows up with the amount of followers you have, and it's cool that you are that type of influence. I'll call you an influencer because I think you are. That is relatable. Honestly, it is, because sometimes, and I'm going to throw out the name Matt Choi. Matt Choi is awesome. Don't get me wrong, but he's way too up there for me to even relate to. I don't run as fast as he does. I don't lift weights as much as he does. And sometimes I can't relate with him because he's just way too up there for me. But when I see people like yourself that post these awesome runs that are related, that I can relate, that's the people I really love following the most. So I think you definitely should give yourself some kudos because you're doing a good job. Honestly, you are.
I appreciate it. That's actually how I feel about Des Linden.
Mm-hmm.
She's like our version of Taylor Swift, like
Yes,
in
yes,
the
yes, yes.
the running world.
Oh, I
Like
agree.
just this other level of like talent and idolization and all of
Yeah.
this stuff. And I love following her and listening
Mm-hmm.
to her podcast, reading her book,
Oh, yeah.
doing anything that she says is great.
Yeah.
She's actually half the reason I applied to Brooks.
But she's very relatable. We go back to the
Yeah,
relatable part. Like, even though she could outrun us by
yeah,
a thousand
exactly.
percent, she
Like
still
she's
keeps it
not
real, man.
she doesn't put herself on a pedestal. Like
Exactly.
it's all, and she'll she'll talk about what she has struggled with and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think even it's not just like being an elite athlete, um like I would follow her, or like regardless. I'm following a lot
Yeah.
of the elite athletes, but not in the same sort of way.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because I think that's a huge part. The authenticity, I think, is super
I agree
important.
100% because even though again she's way faster than me, she's I feel like if I were to find her in the street, she would definitely, say hi and
Yeah,
have a conversation and just be a normal human being, which is awesome,
yeah, yeah.
and maybe I'm wrong, maybe she doesn't, who knows, but at least that's what I think, and that's what I hold dearly.
I
And
mean,
I'm
she does
like
enough
you.
meet and greets
Oh yeah.
that like
Yeah.
everybody who has met her has good things to say. I feel like
Yeah.
she's not like hiding somewhere that she's actually a terrible person.
Yeah.
Like
No, for
I'm
sure.
pretty sure that what we see is what
No, for sure. For sure.
is.
And Hillary, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know it's late and whatnot.
Yeah.
I at this point, we do have a very cool segment that I started. You'll be the third person to do this. Hopefully we can continue this chain. So that's awesome. We do have a question from our previous guest,
Okay.
and we'll let our guest tell it to you, and then you'll have a moment to answer. Okay?
Okay.
What do you do or recommend to other runners when that goal does not go your way? So, how do you react to it not going the way you want it?
Alrighty. Hillary, go ahead and answer it.
Okay. So as somebody who has tried and failed many times, this is something that I consider myself quite an expert on, because I mean it took me 10 years to break 2 hours in the half marathon, if that gives you perspective. Like I have failed so many times.
Oh yeah. Me too.
There's there's a few things. One, let myself be disappointed for a finite amount of time. Race day, like I can be as upset as possible, and then after that, be productive. Don't dwell on it. Anything past that, reevaluating, like, is this a goal that is actually achievable for me? Should I even be going after this? Again, if my goal was, I mentioned this earlier in the segment, if my goal was qualifying for Boston, and every single time I was really trying and I came up an hour short, it might be time for me to come up with a different goal. The goal that I've been going after recently is something that I know that I physically am capable of doing. And so it's been more, how do I, like, look at what went wrong? Why didn't I hit this? And what can I do differently? So in the 2 times that I tried, the one that I got really close at, I aimed for 10:18 as my pace, and I hit 10:18 as my pace, and the course was slightly long, and I missed it by 3 minutes. So that was the big thing there. The second one is a little bit of a fluke, because I had strep 2 weeks prior. I missed my original goal, my original goal race, and so I signed up for a different one, like, last second, and I did that, and I came up short on that goal, but I also was not 100% healthy. So really looking at, why did I not hit this? And so the things that I learned from those is, one, let's aim for 10:10, because that will give me wiggle room if I'm not hitting the curves perfectly. So I do come out with it a little bit longer, give myself some wiggle room. And then, you can't help when you get sick. That's a whole other thing.
That's nothing. You can't do anything about that. But I love the way you think about that, because I have a good friend. His name is Slim. He's from Austin. He's an elite runner, very, very fast runner, and he missed the time trials by, like, I think it was like maybe 22 seconds. And they interviewed him about it, because this had been his second attempt to try to make it. And he said, you know what? I give myself an hour to beat myself up about it, and then I move on. And that's exactly, I love that, because, for example, I ran the New York, and I finished it in 5 hours, right? The last New York City Marathon, I did it. And I had a goal that I wanted to beat the 4 hour and 30 minutes. And I beat myself up so bad after that race. It took me like days to be able to even talk about it. Like, my friends would ask me, how was New York? I bet you it was a great experience. And I would tell them, I don't want to talk about it, because I was so pissed. And then someone told me, dude, did you? And that's when I found out how many people did not finish. And he told me, do you know how many people did not finish? I was like, no. I was like 5,000 out of 50. Out of 50,000, 5,000 did not finish. Did you finish? I was like, yeah, of course I did. He's like, then that's something to celebrate about. Like, don't beat yourself up something that just did not work out. It wasn't in the cards for that day. You finished. You did it. You are a successful marathon runner at that point. And so that really change my perspective of how I was so hard on myself. So I love that you think like that, and I think most of us should think like that as well. Think about it.
It does not always come easy. Like, it doesn't.
No,
I don't just, like, I'm not always just positive from the get-go, but but it's something I have to work at. But
of course,
it's definitely long run. Not dwelling on that stuff. And and just, using it as a learning experience. Because for most of us, there is another chance to do stuff, and just you can learn from any of those things. And that actually is another thing that I think is really good if you consistently miss a goal, but you know that it is something that physically you are able to do. Like, it's a reasonable goal, but for some reason you're not hitting it. I think something else that you can do, which I've been doing recently, is put that goal on hold and go after a different goal. And so I've never raced a 10K before. I've run 6.2 miles, like, a lot. And I've done a couple like jogging 10Ks for fun. But I've never actually raced it. And so I was like, okay, I'm not even going to think about marathon training. I don't have to start training for Berlin yet. I'm not going to think about that. I'm going to focus on the 10K for a little bit. And so I'm gonna be doing that on Sunday. And
that's awesome.
The 4:30 goal is still there, but for now I'm just trying to see how fast I can run a 10K.
And like you said, don't dwell over it too long, you know. So putting it aside and having other goals is awesome. So that's really a cool way to see it. And of course, you answered the question. So as you know, tradition is you have to ask a question for our next guest. So do you have a question?
Yeah. So my question would be, if you got to a point where you couldn't run, what would you do? How would you approach that? Or what would your advice be for somebody else who traditionally loved running and no longer can actually participate in the sport?
Wow, that is a really good question, because I can't even think. I don't think I've ever thought about that. And I guess I don't know if I'm the only one, but I can't even think. I don't think I've ever sat down and said,
it's a scary thought.
Yeah, it is. And it could happen anytime, you get a bad injury and that could be it. So that's actually a really good question. And another part of the tradition is you have to answer your own question.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was part of it. I think I would lean more into coaching. And I think I would do more volunteering at local races. I don't volunteer very much at local races because I'm usually running them. Most of my volunteer stuff is for like training runs and stuff. I'll do the waters and stuff at my group runs and everything, but I'm almost never a spectator at a race. Almost every single race that I go to is because I'm running in it. So I think I would do a lot more, water stops and the signs, the random people with the signs and give the high fives and put the medals on people, all that kind of stuff. And then just really focus on coaching, because I can't imagine a life away from the sport. Even if I'm not the one competing. Like I don't think that there will ever be a time in my life when it is not a part of my life. I could lose my legs tomorrow and I would still want to be ingrained in the sport of running.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I mean, you've been doing it since 7. I mean, at this point, there's no way out. I don't think there's a way out anymore since you've been doing it for that long. But awesome answer. And I think thinking now, if that would happen to me, I probably would still do something with running, trying to help out the youth or something via volunteer at a school or something. But definitely, if I could still work out and do other things that are not necessarily running, I probably would do that too. But volunteering is such a good thing, and I've been wanting to volunteer on races because it looks so cool when someone gives you a medal. But I've never been one to give a medal to someone that just finished a race. So
and the races can't happen without volunteers. Like that's that's the thing. Like these. If there weren't volunteers, if everybody out there was paid, we would be paying like $600 every single race. Like there would not be it would not be an accessible sport if it weren't for volunteers.
You hit it right on the dot. If it's not for the volunteers, we would not be able to afford these races for sure. So we definitely thank our volunteers for all the races that they do, and that I think that will be a good goal to put this year for myself. I think I'm going to try to figure some race that I can volunteer and put a little bit of, put my part into the volunteering part. But Hillary, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything. Before you go, the last thing you need to do is give us where we can find you. You did say that you're racing this Sunday, but go ahead and give us, the name of the race, give us where we can find you and how we can reach you to keep track of you and all your endeavors that you have, and of course Berlin and whatnot.
Yeah, so I'm pretty simple. I'm only on Instagram. I don't have a TikTok or YouTube. This will actually probably be my first time on YouTube.
Awesome.
Fun fact. So everything is on Instagram. It's running up that Hillary, and it underscores between the words, and it's Hillary with 2 L's.
Okay.
Because that's the way that it's intended to be spelled.
Of course, running up that hill, huh? Yes, of course.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
So
very
running
much.
up that Hillary.
No, thank you very much, Hillary. I did appreciate your time, and we'll be keeping track. And if Berlin is everything works out for Berlin from here on, then maybe I already found my run partner, so we can both hit our PR. That would be awesome.
Yeah, let's do it.
All righty, Hillary. You have a great night, and again, thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.